And we are live. All right, so anyone else who's been following along at home, welcome back to the Talking Average Fitness podcast. As always, I am back in control, away from the random day that Kevin took the reins last week. My name is Sam Burns. As always, my partner in crime is Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Sam. How are you today?
Doing well, crushing life, happy to be here. And we are joined by our good friend, Miss Katelynn Patterson. From whereabouts are you right now, Katelynn?
Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, Alabama.
Narnia.
Yeah.
But not where you're from originally. Where are you from originally?
I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, okay. So it's close but similar but not, would you say?
Yeah, it's more similar than Boston was.
That is very true. So that's a nice little segue. So how do we know Katelynn? Kevin, you've known her longer than I have. So why don't you lead off? And remember, be polite. We have a lady on the podcast.
Tell me your intro story, Kevin.
Oh my gosh, I'll get there because it's amazing. But I know Kate through what was it, summer of 21, I think 2021.
Mm-hmm.
That at One Nation we were hiring coaches, and we were having a hard time like nailing down someone who was like in the area, wanted to do the full-time deal, but we needed someone with a lot of availability because a few of our coaches were traveling around during the summer, as people do. And so there is a guy named Frank who I saw all over the place on the hand plan leaderboard. And Kate was on there as well, but Frank had reached out when he saw us like post about coaching. He was like, "Hey, I coach. I live in North Carolina. Would you be willing to have me for the summer, like do like a summer thing?"
Yep.
And so I was like, let me, chat to the owners of the gym. They were like, "Yeah, if he's good, we'll have him." So like he submitted like a video of him coaching, and we had him teach the overhead squat and submitted a lesson plan for Nancy. And he was the best candidate. So we're like, "Yeah, if you'd like to come for the summer, like you'll basically live in the gym." And he was like, "That's all I've ever wanted to do." So
20-year-old CrossFitters.
The thing is, if Frank's listening, or if he ever listens, he will agree with that statement.
Yeah.
And so he moved up and he brought Kate. Like, I didn't know that Kate and Frank lived in the same area, but I knew Kate was on the hand plan thing and that Frank's on the hand plan thing. And apparently they went to the same gym and were the best of friends. And so Kate came with him to enrich her life for the better and make some amazing friends. And so that's how I know Kate, is just they decided to come up for the summer and ended up being much longer than just one summer.
Yeah.
And then Kate ripped all of our hearts out by leaving and decided that Alabama was better for some reason. I'm not really sure why, but here we are.
So did he leave anything out, Kate?
I don't think so.
I know the story that Kate wants me to tell, and it's going to be like a big insight to Kate's personality, right? So, we had just met Kate and Frank. Like, they drove up from North Carolina to Boston. They get to the first stop, obviously, was the gym. They come in, say hey to everybody, like, "Hey, we've been in a car for 17 hours, so everything hurts." Yeah, sure. And so Frank had to go pick up all the stuff for like the apartment that they were subletting, and left Kate at the gym to just be stupid with us. And so I forget what we did that day, but I'm sure we did some stupid stuff. There was like some legless rope climbs legless rope climbs.
Didn't know how to do. So
yeah. Well, you either sink or swim.
Yeah.
And so did some nonsense. The next day, of course, they're both exhausted having traveled. They come in because they're like, "All right, we're going to train." Like, the group is going to train at 9 a.m., whatever the time was.
Yeah.
And at this point, like, with the, a group of myself, Lachlan, a couple members, other coaches, that were going to come. And Kate and Frank, I don't think at the time knew that Mr. James Hobart was going to be joining us for training that day. And so we're in the coach's office, and Kate's got her hand in a tub of pre-workout. And so she's like unscrewing. She's like, "Yep, got to have some of this." She takes a massive scoop of pre-workout and just dry scoop, like just the dome piece. And so she slaps it back. She turns, and there's James standing in the doorway of the office, and she like just like all the powder. And so James sits there and makes the most accurate judgment call, having seen someone for 3 seconds. He just looks at Kate and goes, "You got a few screws loose, don't you?" And just, and that right there.
And that's
we're all
to know.
Yeah, and that just, I was like, that incredibly accurate, and we're all dying laughing in the thing, but it's good.
And then 6 months later, he actually sent me pre-workout when we moved back.
Did he?
I like get home and there's like a strange package. It doesn't say who it's from. It doesn't say like a return address, and I open it up, and sure enough, it's just a thing of pre-workout. My mom's like, "Who sent you that?" And I'm like, "I'm almost positive it's James Hobart who sent me this pre-workout," and it was.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you've ever gotten a package from James, they come in mysterious shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
There is no return address, or he puts something ridiculous like I don't know, like as a return address and stuff. But it'll just be random things that'll just show up one day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, that's hilarious. I didn't know any of that. My life is richer now for knowing that. So we reached out to Katelynn because we wanted to have her on, and we wanted to talk about, an impending event in basically everybody's lives is the new year, right? So new year, new you, all that horseshit. And we've ranted plenty, especially in the last couple episodes, about like our opinions on how we think both athletes and coaches should go about dealing with things like nutrition and work to rest days, and why it's stupid to do competitors training, and all these other things.
Holidays,
and
it's okay to take 2 days off training and eat a cookie. You're not going to
right? Yeah, Murph in the morning is not going to undo the Thanksgiving dinner you have later. All of those things, and they're scientifically accurate. But we wanted to bring someone else in to kind of talk about just their perspective on things like this. So since Kate was at One Nation, you are a CrossFit Level 2 trainer now at this point? Yes?
Yeah.
See? Fantastic. And you work at X4 in where?
Homewood, Alabama.
Homewood, Alabama. What's that like? What was that transition going from like One Nation to X4?
Very different. Yeah. So when I moved to Birmingham, I was looking to coach CrossFit. I do still coach CrossFit. The gym is connected. So we have a CrossFit gym, and then they have X4, which is, it's similar to Orange Theory in the fact that it's been franchised and we have several locations in the area. So I am the general manager of that location that's connected with the CrossFit. So I coach the X4 side and manage the X4 side, and then I also coach on the CrossFit side. Nice. So it's a mixture. I wear a microphone, and that was new for me.
Like Madonna headset?
Yeah. So I'm like always adjusting it, but I realized very quickly that I was already yelling, and I needed to not yell in the microphone because people were like, "All right, girl, we hear you." But that was the biggest adjustment for me. We do a lot of the same movements, just without a barbell. So I enjoy it.
Very nice. And you've also taken on a role as kind of nutritionist, or dealing with nutrition with clients inside of that facility, and probably like outside of that facility as well. Tell us a little bit about that transition coming into a role where now it's not just personal training or dealing with athletes in a group class, but now you're specifically zeroing in on like nutrition with individuals.
Yeah, so it's super cool. I got my level 1 nutrition course through CrossFit and really enjoyed it. And then I got my precision nutrition level 1 and kind of realized that I wanted to do nutrition coaching. So I got a few clients when I was personal training at the country club before I started my current job, and really enjoyed it. And so then I partnered with MoveWell Mobile, which is a physical therapist company that moves and partners with different gyms in the area. They go to clients' houses and different gyms that people are at to meet people where they are. And they wanted to partner to offer nutrition coaching. So gave me a lot more clientele, opened up the door for a lot of different seminars, and just being able to talk to people about nutrition, which is cool. And I didn't really know it was something I wanted to do until I started doing it. And now I really enjoy it.
Very nice. That must be really, really cool to kind of discover accidentally that you don't hate it. And it's like, you know, oh, this is a great way to spend my time.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening for me having like my own weight loss journey. I was like, it would have been cool if I would have had somebody to kind of talk to and know any idea what I was doing, because I just didn't. So I just did CrossFit a lot and like, and so I don't want people to have the same experience that I did and like have to be able to look onto it.
Yeah. I really appreciate that and identified with that. I think there's a lot of people who are just like, sure, I'll just do a shit ton of CrossFit and hope that solves my
Yep.
problem.
Let me run myself into the ground real quick.
Yeah.
And wow, I lost weight.
Wow.
I
And you
mean,
know, go ahead, Kev.
I mean, it like that probably would solve all problems. Just like if like, hey, let me just do a lot of CrossFit and hopefully it solves all my problems. If it doesn't solve all your problems, you're probably just not doing enough CrossFit. And if it hasn't solved everyone's problem, then apparently we just haven't found the right amount of so much CrossFit yet. So someone needs to keep trying.
That's the
That,
rule.
Huh?
It's 12. You have to do 12 Metcons a day.
12 Metcons. I didn't think we
That
needed a
sounds pretty
disclaimer
soft.
on this podcast, but we might actually need a disclaimer at this point. Well, it's really cool that you mentioned that, kind of going back to, damn it, I had a whole thing in my brain, but I lost it. Maybe it'll come back. Anyway, oh well.
I have something. I got something.
Yeah, you did.
Just a quick question for Kate. Is Homewood, Alabama, the next town over from Sweet Home, Alabama?
That's actually hilarious. I didn't even think about that, but
I'll show myself out.
Yeah,
Sam is so disappointed in me right now.
Stop giving dad joke, and you don't have a kid.
Oh my gosh. Sam just like his opinion of me just went from wherever it was to like at least 6 feet under. Like I'm dead to him now, and I'm no longer allowed on the podcast after this episode.
Like if you're gonna dad joke it, like, yeah, I just wasn't prepared for it. I'll go back. I'll laugh later when I listen to this. I'll be like, yeah, okay, that was pretty good. So thinking about nutrition, thinking about your clients, and like obviously the clients you're dealing with, you mentioned, kind of partnering with a PT firm and like having clients at the country club. These are people who exist outside of the sphere of CrossFit. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Like, we joke about just doing a shit ton of CrossFit, but it kind of goes back to something we've mentioned before. If like CrossFit done poorly still works, you'll still get strong, you'll still get fit, right? But of course, we want to steer people in the right direction. So thinking about like the demographics that you're working with, because we're seeing a broader range of people than I might see inside of a facility. Like when people come to you and they talk about nutrition, how do they describe what they want to do, like the change that they want to see? What are their goals when they talk about it?
So normally most people want to lose weight. In the CrossFit space, I do have clients who want to get stronger and want to lean out or even gain weight. So I do have the offs who want to gain weight or who want to like do more body recomp, but 90%, 95% of the people who come and see me, they want to lose weight.
Sure.
I look directly into their life. So immediately we talk about how their sleep is, how much they drink, how much they exercise, what they're eating.
This sounds like so familiar. It's shocking.
Yeah, and we look at all of that first because, I mean, honestly, they are overeating, but they're really not. Like most of them, if they're coming to see me and they have like thoughts of having a nutrition coach, they're already paying attention to what they're eating. So I find that a lot of them are not eating enough protein, which is obviously super common, and they're eating way too many carbs, but it's also like their lifestyle that's unhealthy. So it's lack of sleep, alcohol, lack of water, and just not eating at the right times or eating only at night when they get home from work or being super inconsistent. I haven't found that people are just eating absurd amount throughout the day. It's just that they're super inconsistent with what they're eating and when they're eating it.
And so with the people who are kind of in the CrossFit gym, I imagine that it's a little bit more consistency because they understand that concept of consistency. But the people who are, to your point, if they're talking to a nutritionist or nutrition coach, they're trying to pay attention, but they're probably 9-to-5ers. They probably get to the gym a handful of times a week.
Kids.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I think immediately about like the people I identify with, like people with kids, people who have kind of a fixed schedule where the big chunk of their day is not their own time. They don't get to decide. What are some ways that you have found success helping people to manage that? I know that's a really big question, but putting aside for right now things like sleep and protein intake and stuff like that, how do you help your clients handle things like, hey, you've got to eat minimum twice a day, and 8 hours in the middle of the day you're working? Like, how are you handling that?
we sit down and we talk about their entire schedule, and we're just super realistic. Like, I'm like, okay, are you actually going to be able to eat lunch?
Right.
So if I tell you to meal prep on Sundays, and you're like, yep, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to eat the same lunch every single day, like, are you actually going to be able to do that? And I'm super real with them, and usually it's no. And so instead of trying to convince them to do something that they're going to eventually fail at, I mean, not in a bad way, but it's just setting them up for failure. And I don't want to particularly do that, because then they're frustrated and then they give up, and then they're eating cake for dinner every night, and it just goes down the wrong road. So instead of doing that, it's like, okay, 3 days a week, can we eat lunch? Okay. And if you're drinking 7 days a week, can we drink 5? And if you have ice cream 5 days a week, can we do 4? And we just start with that on that first week. Like, let's just take one thing out at a time. Let's not go crazy. Let's plan to have a tiny little yogurt for lunch. Can you sneak that? Can you go to the bathroom and eat your yogurt? Like, whatever it may be, like, take a nibble on a protein bar during that 8 hours during the day. Or can you convince your wife or husband to have, chicken, rice, and a salad instead of Burger King twice a week? And just starting with super simple, easy tasks that they can check off. Water, for example, if they're used to drinking 28 ounces, I'm like, great, can we do 32? Yeah. Can you give me 4 more ounces? And so I just start there. And if they're knocking that out of the park that first week to 2 weeks, then I'm gonna up it a little bit and be like, great. So, and they'll usually start seeing progress, especially with like eating more protein, eating lunch. They're hungrier throughout the day, and they're like, wow, I didn't think that this would make a big difference, but it does. Sure. I encourage them to continue.
That's little awesome. By little, a little becomes a lot.
Right. Just realize that little changes can be effective.
Yeah, I mean that. Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead. No. I'll finish my thought real quick. I listen to you and I hear, because I'm a CrossFitter, I think about everything in CrossFit terms. Like, I hear mechanics, consistency, intensity in the back of my brain. And we know as trainers that that's a proven method for getting someone stronger, fitter, more capable, or whatever it is. But I love that, I can see very clearly making these small changes, the mechanics of trying to get them to understand water intake or protein intake or consistency in eating or consistency in better healthy choices. And then, helping them build those habits iteratively. And then, and only then, when they've, set a level of success that was achievable, and then they've reached that level, you're like, cool, let's make your life more difficult, right?
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really like that. Kev, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna kind of echo what you were saying, like the little incremental steps are the best way to kind of like at least start the process of getting people moving in the right direction. Obviously, we have this ideal picture of what your life would look like if you wanted to be super happy, healthy, and just a human weapon. That like this is what life would look like, but it's an unattainable kind of picture of perfection. Again, if you have kids, this is your job. Sometimes life gets crazy. Your car breaks down, whatever it might be. Yeah, I know. But whatever it might be, life's going to get in the way. So how can we kind of like set you up with these little things, little baby steps to kind of like set you up for success going forward? But I had like a question for you. How do you, as you're kind of, coaching people through nutrition and navigating through that, have you found, or how do you kind of navigate the misinformation that people just have kind of like embedded in their heads about nutrition, you can branch out into fitness as well. Mm-hmm. But the misinformation, because there's a lot out there when it comes to nutrition that people are just like, they have it stuck in their head for whatever reason. They saw it somewhere, read it somewhere, their grandma told it to them 40 years ago, and now that's just the way it is. How do you kind of navigate trying to break them out of that, or try and educate them on, okay, that might not be exactly right. Here's what it needs to be, type thing. Hopefully that makes sense.
That's a great question. I would say that I'm super upfront to begin with. So when people are like, what diet do you do, or what diet do you suggest? And I'm like, none of them. Not a single one do I suggest.
That's a dumb question.
Yeah, so I mean, when we have our initial evaluation, I'm just very straight up and like, I'm not suggesting you to be keto. I'm not suggesting you to do any type of thing besides eat the appropriate foods that you need for your body, and that is it. Exercise and all those things, like live a healthy life. I don't think, and I like stand on this hill, I'll die on this hill. Like, I don't think average humans need to be scaling and measuring out down to the gram how many, grams of rice they get to eat for that day. I don't think that, Susan, who has a family of 4, needs to be doing that to be able to be at the weight that she wants to be and the fitness level she wants to be. If she wants to go to the games, yeah, okay, maybe we can go down that road. But I don't think average humans need to do that. I think the average humans just need to know how much protein and carbs and fats in the meal they need so that they're not spoonfulling out handfuls of rice and zero, protein. But I just think giving them the baseline of what they need each day is really all they need, unless they have really high goals that they're trying to meet. A good example would be like peanut butter being a protein source. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not. And I'm sorry, and I hate it. I'm upset too. We're all upset, right? I want peanut butter
yes.
as well. And yes, you can still have peanut butter. My whole thing is, my business is called No Restrictions Nutrition, because I truly don't think there's anything you need to restrict. I enjoy having a margarita. I enjoy cake pops at Starbucks, right? Like, I want to have those things too. So I think allowing people to have that is the best way to help them reach their goals, because if you completely cut people off from everything they enjoy in life, then they're going to fall off and have all their vices in one day. So
Kev.
Me and Sam are just going to keep cutting each other off because we each have a question. We're like thinking now to get I was gonna say, do you think, because you'd mentioned like you like in an ideal world, people aren't weighing and measuring things. You don't think it's necessary for people with a normal life. Do you think weighing and measuring your food is a worthwhile practice to get a handle on how much, like, what actually like if we want to all be depressed for a second, go measure out a true serving of peanut butter. While we're talking about peanut butter, and you'll just quickly spiral downwards. But do you think weighing and measuring things is like not forever? Because I agree with you on that. Like it's not something, if you're whipping out a food scale at wherever you are to make sure you're like dialed in, then you're like have those lofty goals you're talking about. But do you think it's a worthwhile practice to have people weigh and measure things, at least for a short period of time, so that they can learn how to better understand like how much they need to eat, if that makes sense? Like, so they know, okay, like this is what 4 ounces of steak looks like.
Actually is.
Because right. I weighed it. Yeah, because I actually weighed it. It's not like, that looks about 4 ounces, but you have no idea. It's actually 10 ounces, and now you're overdoing it.
Right. No, I have nothing against weighing. I mean, I weigh my food. Mm-hmm. I try to, like, probably 5 or 7 days a week. And I've gotten to where now I know about how much, because I eat the same thing every day. So about how much yogurt I need to be at 120 grams of yogurt. I do think it's beneficial. I think it scares some of my clients to begin with. Like, hey, now you need a scale and I need you to weigh it out. I think that makes people super nervous. I do hand portions unless they have experience. So I do have 2 clients who have experience. They've had a nutrition coach before. They've tracked their macros before, and they had their old macros. All they really needed was somebody to tell them to eat right. One of my friends, there's a quote that he said, would you rather spend money to save time or spend time to save money? That type of thing. Like, I'm probably going to do my programming because I pay money for it. So that type of thing. But I would say, yes, it's beneficial to weigh and measure your food, but I think there's other ways you can do it by hand portions. A palm full of chicken is probably an appropriate amount of chicken. A car's beeping.
Broke it already.
Yeah.
Broke. Anyways, so yes and no. I think that you can do other ways, like hand portions, to get around that. Maybe a few weeks in would be beneficial, but I do know some of my clients, it would make them nervous, and they'd be like, whoa, I thought you said that this wasn't going to be that crazy.
I think that's a super reasonable way to go about that. And I know some people coming into the CrossFit space, and your car is going to die on you. Do you have the keys in and like the accessory thing turned on?
Shut off. It's okay.
Okay, MPD. We'll find out later if she's able to start the car. Um, I know some people who've come in for like on ramp sessions, and they're like, "What should I do with my food?" And I'm like, "Don't do anything. Just like don't talk to me about that for another 2 weeks."
Yeah, like
Um,
it's okay.
yeah. Do you ever get so you've got these great principles. I think they're, like a great foundation to get people started with. And especially where it's like, I'm not going to tell you to do keto. I'm not going to tell you to do high carb, low fat, or low carb, high fat. Um, like, do you ever get pushback from your clients where they're like, but such and such an Instagram person says I need to be doing this.
Yeah. I've
Liver
had
King said only eat heart and liver.
Right.
Oh, I
well,
said it.
Liver King, and I'm not telling you to do that. Yes, I've had pushback from people who have had nutrition coaches before who have encouraged that, and I just tell them I do it differently. I let them know before they pay me, right, before they sign up for a month, anything like that, that's just not how I found success. It's not how some of my clients have found success. And that if they want to change their macros after a few weeks, we will absolutely change them, right? Like if somebody's not used to getting 180 grams of protein and they're used to getting 100, I'm not going to put them at 180.
Yeah.
No, and they see that and they're like, well, my previous coach told me I should be at 180. And I'm like, how many times did you actually eat 180 grams of protein?
Yeah.
And like a couple of times
Never.
I felt super sick and bloated. Like, yes, because you went from eating 100 grams of protein to 180 grams of protein. So like that, I'm sure you don't feel good. I feel sick thinking about that. Right? So yeah, I get pushed back and I just tell them, or another thing is I give them a packet and say they were trying to lose 40 pounds. Their packet says they're trying to lose 10.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's not what I told you. Like, well, what number comes before 40? Right? You have to lose 10 pounds before you can lose 20, before you can lose 30, before you can lose 40.
Oh, this makes me so happy.
It's so great.
Right, I'm not going to starve you.
Yeah.
Right, 1,000 calories a day because you've been eating 3,000, so that you're literally your body's in fight or flight.
Yeah.
So I think I just tell them that, and like this conversation I'm having with you guys is pretty much exactly what I tell them. Like, I'm not cutting your calorie count from 2,000 to 1,000. I'm not going to starve you. I'm not taking your carbs from 250 grams to 80. And I want you to live your life and not be starving for 10 days and then be like, I hate nutrition coaching and I'm going to do something else.
Right.
I really hope that you're that blunt with people, because that warms my heart. There are some times I wish I could be that blunt with people.
Yeah.
I mean, I do say that 10 comes before 40. Like, that's a common saying because it's just true. Like, they see it and they panic and they're like, I want to lose more than that. And I know. Like, I promise you we will get there, but we have to get here first.
Yeah.
It's a process. You got to do the things. You got to slowly work your way down.
You do. And I see it with, I had a guy who came into my last affiliate before One Nation. And a guy walked into the gym and he'd only been there like 3 days or something like that. And I coached a class and he came to me after class. He's like, hey, I'm so-and-so. I want to go to the games. I'm like,
sick.
Awesome. Let's have a chat about that, we had a come to Jesus meeting about like what that looks like, and
it's,
to his credit, he didn't just be like, okay, cool, peace. Like he dug in and he's been at it a couple years now and he's gotten so much better. But he also understands now that I wasn't blowing smoke up his ass. I also wasn't trying to like destroy his dreams. Like there are steps that need to come, one at a time. And as glib as we are being about, 10 coming before 40, psychologically speaking, that is a fantastic thing. Like you set achievable goals and you help them achieve the goal. And then they're like, oh, cool, this works. Bump, and to something that you said earlier, people who pay attention. And if we've talked before about value that is being provided, like we want these people who we work with to actually do the things they want to do. And so often we're fucking ice skating uphill trying to undo horse shit that people have said online or seen online, and these unsexy things of small reasonable goals, talking about sleep, talking about water intake, like they move the needle, you
Mhm.
And
know, and
people don't realize that for as far as like things beyond what you're eating, they have no idea that them sleeping 3 hours every night is making it hard for them to lose weight. And I've been there, so I get it.
yeah,
You just don't know because that's the life you have to live. Like maybe you just have no choice. You have to work. You have kids. They're waking
yeah,
you up, and they're just like pushing it to the side. And I'm like, oh, I've been doing all the things, and I've been tracking my macros, and I'm stuck at the same weight. I'm like, how much do you sleep?
yeah,
3 hours. I'm like, ugh. Okay, well, your body is in fight or flight.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, the unpleasant answer to give those people when you're asking, like, okay, like I'm not able to lose weight. Well, how much are you sleeping? If your answer is anything less than 8 hours, you're making it harder for yourself. That's the thing. And the further away from 8 hours you get, the harder you are making it for yourself. So like if you're like, how much are you sleeping? And they're like, oh, like 7 hours. Like, okay, like that's relatively reasonable for a
Yeah.
normal human. Like we can work with that. When they're like 3 hours, like, homie, like it ain't happening for you. I hate to tell you.
Can we try
Um,
more? Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, to take that to a really extreme example, I think everyone on this call has heard of the book Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. If not, go read it. It's about that thick, and it's this guy did nothing but studies on sleep at Cambridge University for years now. One of the things that he did is he would take people, healthy, normal, males and females in their 20s. They measure their blood glucose. They take a whole bunch of blood work beforehand, right? Then they kept them awake for 4 days. At the end of 4 days, they were pre-diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that's all they did. They didn't change their diet or anything like that, but they can induce pre-diabetes. They can raise their HbA1c from whatever it was, 4 or 5 to like 7.1, I think is the cutoff for pre-diabetes, diabetes. They can do that just by eliminating sleep from that person's routine. That's how important sleep can be. And it's, of course, that's a specialized instance where, they're trying to fuck you up as hard as possible. But like,
Yeah.
I feel for those people who they've got, there's one of them and they've got 2 kids and they got to work 2 jobs or something like that. And God bless them. They're trying to take care of themselves when they're also giving so much of themselves to their kids and other people around them. That is not an easy place to be. Have you ever been put in a position where you have to like tell someone who you're working with, like, it's specifically when it comes to something like sleep, hey, I think it's amazing that you are trying to move the needle on this, but until we start addressing this, anything I do over here is just gonna like not work out. Have you ever been put in that position?
similar, not so far, but I did have a guy who, or currently have a man who, he has some teenage kids, and so they play sports, and they're not at the age where they're driving yet. And so every night they're eating out, and he is not sleeping very much. His job is super stressful, and so I would want to say he's like between 4.5 and 5 hours a night. And he is just not seeing very much progress. And I always bring up sleep to him, and he's like, "Why do you always bring up sleep? Like I feel like, I want to talk about what I ate." And I'm like, well, I'm looking at what you ate. And first off, you're not eating enough. So I'm really not worried about what you're eating right now. I'm worried about like your mental health and how much you're sleeping, because I'm almost positive if we could just get some extra sleep in there, you would feel better and you would not be so drowsy throughout the day, and you wouldn't crave really bad foods, and you would have more energy. So we talk about that. And right now his goals are around sleep. Not only let people make 3 goals, because more than that is too much to hit. So he makes his 3 goals, and it's like sleep 6 hours, have a sleep routine. And then the other one, I let him do something else. But like 2 of them have to be about sleep. And until we get that, like, I don't need you to weigh your food out, because I'm looking at what you're eating every day. I see it in your MyFitnessPal, and it's not causing you to gain weight.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's not the reason that you're not losing.
Take it. Well, I'm happy to hear that like no one has gone so far to the other side. Um,
Yeah.
Have you had any of your clients who are like they're super focused on the new year and they're like, hey, it's January 1st is coming up. I want to lose 15 pounds or anything like anything extreme, or have you basically done a good job with your clients and they all are kind of
I,
like they're pulled away from the cliff edge?
I don't have any recent. I have a recent sign up last week, but she didn't actually mention anything about the new year. I
Beautiful.
have people who kind of fell off for
Mm,
Christmas, and really convincing them that that was okay was probably the hardest part. So nothing crazy like new year, new me, nothing like that. More just trying to be like, it is okay.
mm.
We had a nutrition, so I do check-ins every week where we get on the phone or we meet in person depending on where they're at. And most of them were on the phone this past week before Christmas, and it was like, what should I do, because I know my grandma is going to feed me cookies and I really want to drink with my uncle, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I'm like, you should eat the cookies and you should have a drink with your uncle.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean?
Hmm.
Like exactly like that. Like,
I'm
exactly
sorry, I don't understand the words you're using.
I don't understand what you just said.
that. Speaking. Like, yes. So like, well, so what should my goals be this week? And I'm like, the number one thing I can give you is like mindful eating. Like,
Yeah.
just be mindful. Like, if you're full, chew slow. Oh wow, I am full. Stop eating. But besides that, that's the only advice I gave them. They're like, what are my goals for this weekend? And like, your goal is to enjoy your holidays with your family. Your goal is to practice mindful eating, and your goal is to come back with zero regret or guilt for the 4 days, 3 days that you spent enjoying yourself, and that's it. And so
That's
that's
awesome.
the goals that I gave to everybody before Christmas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. And I think that, one thing that I really like about your approach that you're like giving people not just like the small step by step, but also kind of like the process has to look this way. And I think that's something that people kind of lose sight of when it comes to goals. Speaking on kind of like, we're coming up on the new year and everyone hits you with the new year, new me. And everyone wants to throw out like a majorly lofty goal or something that's either unrealistic or they just don't have a process for it, right? So I'm coaching my classes toward like throughout this week. Hey guys, New Year's coming up. Does anyone have any fun goals? Anything you're really like striving for, reaching for, fitness or otherwise? And someone goes, I want to eat better. Okay. So what does that mean? I don't know. I just want to eat better. All right, sick. If you don't know what that means to you, or you don't know like a process of how to get there, it's not going to happen, which is unfortunate because it's not from poor intentions. I'm sure that person really does want to eat better. They just don't know what that looks like or how to get there. And then like the steps needed to get there. And so it's just not going to happen. That's why like every year it's like new year, new me is the biggest lie told by humanity, because it's new year, new you for about 10 days, and then that's it. You
I
buy
have a
yourself a
hot,
new pair of running shoes and a pair of dumbbells that sit dusty in your garage, and
I
that's
just
about it.
the new year, new me though.
Huh?
I have a hot take on that.
Yeah, okay, hit me.
I just think, okay, so I I don't
I'm
think it's
so ready.
I don't think I feel like I hate it already. Don't talk anymore. I don't think it's a bad thing. Yes, people are going to do that. It's like people being mad when the gym is full on January 1st because all these people are coming and signing up.
Yeah.
Why should we be mad that people are trying to better themselves and go to the gym? Why should we be mad and annoyed that people are trying to eat healthier? I just think that as coaches and, nutrition coaches, CrossFit coaches, whatever it may be, people in the health and wellness field should be encouraging of that and help people stick with those goals beyond that. I think reevaluating your previous year is extremely important. I think looking ahead to the next year is super important. So yeah, I get it. The new year, new me is tough. And why does it take the clock counting down from 10 to make you want to change your life? I don't know. It's something about that triggers people to want to make a change, but I'm not necessarily against it.
Mhm.
Even if it doesn't last, it doesn't hurt me, right? It just hurts them. So
Yeah.
why would I not just encourage them to hopefully do what they want to do?
And that was, as I was coaching that class, trying to direct people towards. So as they're giving me an answer, I want to eat better. Okay, awesome. Like, what does that mean? I
Right.
don't know. I just want to eat better. Okay, well, what does eating better mean? Well, I'd probably just like to eat less junk food. Okay, like that, we're getting in the right direction. So what does that look like? What do you need to do to get there? Well, I mean, like, and so they start working their way through, and by the time they're done, they're like, okay, I want to eat better. That looks like eating less junk food. Eating less junk food means like not having as much ice cream in the house or whatever it might be, not as much ice cream in the house, or, instead of eating out 5 nights a week, we eat out 2 nights a week, or whatever that looks like. It now has like a structure. There's something to it. It's not just me throwing out that I want to eat better, but not really having a way to get there. So I went through each person in my class with the same sort of thing. You got any goals? Yep, I'm gonna do this. Okay, awesome. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? What does that look like? What are you hoping to get out of it, to try and like get them to start thinking about those things? Because in my mind, like that's the only way things are going to actually change, is if you have somewhat of a structure, or maybe not a plan, but like a plan in place. Like, what does that look like? What does it mean to you? It's not just I want to eat better type thing.
Oh, it's like
So,
the progressions of nutrition.
huh?
It's like the progression of nutrition, like the progression of a ring muscle up. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty much. Like it, yeah. There needs to be a progression to it. And if I had something else, I just, similar to Sam, just had something in my head and off it went. Um,
Well, I would go so far as, so I'm biased, right? So in the same way that I think understanding how to effectively plan a lesson for a class is so flipping critical. And if you're not doing it, there's a major component of how coaches go about executing on that class missing. I think that having an approach to something like a goal, whether it's nutrition or a movement or flexibility or whatever, but maybe most especially nutrition, because I have a lot of people who have no interest in learning a muscle up, but almost everybody I know knows they want to eat better.
mm-hmm.
And having some kind of plan, and if they don't know, if they don't have the experience or confidence to have that plan by themselves, then knowing where to reach out and who to talk to, and having someone who's close to them be like, hey, I know this person, they've helped me, they're a trusted confidant, they're not full of shit, they're not gonna lead you down the rabbit hole. That's so important, at the same time so hard. um, Kate, do me a favor, like walk me through like what do you do when you work with your clients? So like I know for me myself what it looks like when I take a look at my macros and what I'm paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
But talk to me like I don't have the same nutrition understanding that you might, and it's very possible that I don't. But really talk to me like I don't, for sure.
In the sense of what it looks like to go through nutrition coaching with me,
Yeah,
or
like for example, you've mentioned my fitness pal, you've mentioned
okay,
checking in with people. Like what's the nuts and bolts of how you work with a client and how you like help them remain accountable?
right, okay. So we start with an initial evaluation.
Hmm.
It's like an hour long, and that's where we deep dive into their life. Everything they don't want to tell me, they have to tell me. I force them. Uh, they tell me all this information, and I give them their macros. So they get how many carbs, fats, and the protein that they need a day. I don't ask them to track it to begin with, but it's just what they pay for, right?
Sure.
They deserve to have their macros.
There's a
Like
deliverable.
I base it off of what they're used to eating. So I base it off of obviously height, weight,
Yeah.
exercise, all the numbers that we need.
Standard
But then I
factors.
also change it when we get into that initial evaluation to what they have been eating.
Yeah.
So the same concept of eating 180 grams of protein and you've only been eating 80, we need to meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So we give them their numbers, and they set 3 goals immediately. They take pictures of their food basically the first week. So I don't want you to change anything. Telling somebody not to change something automatically makes them change something.
Right.
So I don't need them really to do it, right? So you're already paying for a nutrition coach. If you're taking pictures of what you're eating and sending it to me, you're going to already make changes without me telling you.
mm-hmm.
I don't need to tell you to measure out your protein yet, because
Right.
there. And I promise you, if you're taking a picture of your protein, you are gonna be cognizant of what you're showing your nutrition coach.
Sure.
So, yeah. Another thing is I tell people that second week to try to get more protein in. And they're like, well, shouldn't I lessen my carbs and fats? Yes, but by getting more protein in, you're going to be fuller. You're not going to crave those things. I don't even need to tell you that.
Mhm.
And so I really don't take anything away right away, and because it just kind of happens automatically. Once we've reached that step, then I'm going to start looking at really how much they're eating. We're going to look at trying to hit those numbers more. It's like, again, the progressions, nice, easy, simple, achievable goals. So yeah, we set 3 goals. They accomplish them. They're on an app called Everfit, which I love. It's like, what's the coaching app that everybody uses?
Right.
True Coach.
True Coach.
It's basically True Coach, but for nutrition.
Oh, nice.
So I can set them tasks. So say you're my client and your goals this week are drink 80 ounces of water, eat protein with every meal, and only drink twice a week. You're going to get notifications every day that says, did you drink your water? And they're going to put in how much water they drank that day. It's going to let them check off if they ate the protein with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So at breakfast, they'll check it off and they'll take a picture of what they ate. Lunch, it's super user-friendly. It's very easy to use. They can message me on there, but we just text. It's not necessary. It tracks their weight so they can see a graph. You can see a graph of how much water. If they want to track their protein each day, you can see all that. You can take it as far as body fat percentage. Anything they want to track can be on there. It's fantastic. Their macros are on there. And then it also connects with MyFitnessPal. I only have a few.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, I only have a few clients who actually connect their MyFitnessPal, which is totally fine because I only have a few clients who actually use MyFitnessPal.
Right.
So I can see, and I really don't use that much because if they're taking pictures of it, I can see what they're eating.
Right.
So I have a good idea of what they're consuming, and it just really helps them understand how much they're having. I also, off of Kevin's point, it's really easy to scan something and say that's the serving size.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably the serving size that this jasmine rice says it is, and like really you're eating double or triple.
Yeah.
I find it's more beneficial to see the picture because I can tell decently well, like not down to the gram, but if you're eating a plate full of rice, it's not the serving size.
Right.
So I really like to encourage people to take pictures. After that, they're checking in with me every day via the app. But then we meet once a week in person or over the phone, and we talk about just their week in general. So how the numbers were, are we hitting our goals? Did you feel like you had the resources you needed to meet those goals? Is there anything I can do to help you? If everything's good and kosher, we leave the numbers the same. If we need to change something, they're super hungry, well, maybe I'll increase it a little bit. If they're super full, we'll decrease something, and then we'll go from there. And then on Sundays, they complete a weekly check-in that I copied, honestly, from my personal coach who does my programming. He asked people at the end of the week how their nutrition was. I don't ask these specific questions, but how their sleep was, how stressed out they were, if there's any issues going on, if anything I need to know about, travel, anything like that. They let me know in this little nice document that I can see from week to week. And if every week they're stressed out, then I can look back and have a conversation with them about why they're stressed, because that's obviously going to be another factor in trying to reach their goals. So
that's really slick. You said the app that you use is called Everfit?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I'm going to have to look into that. That sounds like I'm also a geek when it comes to like apps and integrations and stuff like that. So now I just want to like poke around and be like, does it talk to this? Does it talk to this?
Yeah, so they do. I'm going to say it's not, that portion is not the most user-friendly Everfit. If you want to fix that, if you're, listening to this podcast.
We'll tag them.
Tag them and let them know. You have to, so it integrates, but they have to go make sure that MyFitnessPal is public. Mm-hmm. It has to integrate with the app. Yep. Then I have to like click on the link and then it takes me to MyFitnessPal. So I can't just see it through Everfit. It has to take me to MyFitnessPal and I have to add them as a friend. It's like a process. Mm-hmm. Cool, because if I am curious and I'm like, she's been telling me she's been eating this much, let me go check.
Yep.
But honestly, if they're taking pictures, I don't need it. So
I love the idea of, so to your point, if they're taking pictures, they're going to change what's on the plate. It's like it's like Schrodinger's nutrition plan. Like anytime you don't even have to ask them to make changes.
No.
The moment there's accountability and you're like being honest with someone else about what you're doing, all of a sudden shit starts to fall in line.
Yep.
I mean, I have a client who literally said, I've had nutrition coaching before. I know my macros, and she is lean, mean, like she's jacked. Right.
Fighting weight.
I don't need you. What I need to do is I need to pay you.
Yeah.
Do it. And that's it. She's my easiest client, obviously, right?
Yeah.
She just needs to pay for the accountability, and I get it. I mean, I'm the same way. I do nutrition coaching, and I have a hard time following my own rules because no one's keeping me accountable besides myself.
Yeah.
So having somebody look over what you're eating and just to text and be like, gosh, I haven't hit my protein today, and I'm just like, haven't had time, just somebody to vent to, people love.
Well, I'm going to throw it out there. If you want to pay me to take a look at your MyFitnessPal every day, I have no problem doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I will pay you $5 a month.
$5 a month. I think my services are worth more than that. I could make a case.
I was really hoping that you were just going to fall for it, though.
Mine aren't. Yeah. I'll take $5 a month.
Kevin, nice. You're hired.
Awesome. Also, look, be like, looks great. Keep going.
Keep me in. I actually use Amex though, which unfortunately,
there we go.
Clients on because
well, it's not public yet.
It's still in beta.
They're still beta testing the whole thing.
But I like it 10 times better than MyFitnessPal.
So
there you go.
So we got about 10 minutes left in the hour. I would like to geek out just a little bit. So we've mentioned Amex, we mentioned MyFitnessPal. There are a bunch, and I'm sure we've all played with a bunch of these tools. Real quick, lightning round style. Do you wear a fitness wearable? Whoop. Okay, cool. So second question answered. Fantastic. Do you have your Whoop tied into your phone so that like Apple Health and the Whoop always also talk to each other?
No. What does Apple Health do if you don't have a watch?
Well, so Apple Health is a really quick diversion. Apple Health is the iPhone's built-in database for all health metrics. So, for example, you can tell Whoop to connect to it, and Whoop will understand, what your heart rate and your strain and your sleep are, and they'll tell Apple Health about that, right? So then, if I go to something like Amex or MyFitnessPal, or I have Chronometer or something like that, if I do a check-in on my InBody scale, InBody is tied to Apple Health. Chronometer, which does my nutrition, sees my Apple Health my check-in from my InBody scale. So it's like a center collection place for all that data.
Okay.
All right. So you like Amex. Why do you like Amex?
Because I didn't like MyFitnessPal.
Sorry.
Cool. Honest.
I like it.
For her. It's convenient. Like convenience is key for me.
Yeah.
I do find, like you're talking about, the integrations of Apple Health. It stresses me out. So her app is simple. I eat the same things every day, so I just click repeat day most days, and it's
love it.
And yet all of my saved foods are in there. Yeah. I don't have to keep scanning it. It's just easy. Whereas MyFitnessPal, like the screen just looks crazy, and I have no need. It's like the RP app. Like, does RP have success? Absolutely, and a lot of athletes use it. But I downloaded the app and I deleted the app within like 4 minutes because it asked me for my schedule, and I'm like, well, what if my schedule changes? Yeah. And what if I don't have 12 grams of protein right now? And I was like in a panic. I'm like, okay, you're not going to the girl. Take a breath. Use the Amex app and just go about your day. So I think they're useful, and I love the Whoop. It's like my religion. But besides that, I keep it pretty simple.
Nice. Kev, tell me, what do you like?
So I don't track my food, to be completely honest.
You fail at this part of the
podcast. I do fail at this part of the podcast. Because I don't track it because I'm a very disciplined human. Like if it's time to go to bed at this time, it's like I'm going to bed this time. If it's time to wake up at this time, wake up at this time. Like I know what I need to eat for me to perform and feel good and recover well. And if I have a day that I'm like, wow, I really didn't recover well, or had like a really hard session, then like I know like I need to intake some more carbs to do that. Like I'm very intuitive with what I need to eat, and I'm also not opposed. Like if I want a cookie, I'll have a cookie, and we're always good in the hood. So I'll go through like brief stints where like that's like my kind of like new year, new me thing. I'm like, I'm gonna get back into tracking my food, and I'll track my food for like 3 weeks for like a few weeks. But what you'll see is like the first 4 days were like all the meals were logged, and then like the next week it's like I forgot a dinner here, I forgot a lunch there. What did I have for a snack? I don't fucking know. So it's like it just ends up as like a mishmash of things. I'm like, well, this is dumb, and I just kind of chuck it to the side. I do like the I was asked to like be a part of the beta test for Onyx because of knowing Cass. And I think the app is great at what it is. I just don't use food trackers often enough, consistently enough, whatever, for that to be valuable for me. But I thought that the app was nice, the whole interface, and they keep making improvements in the whole thing. I tried RP for a while, like the RP app. And the things that I really liked about that, which made sense for me, is like I'm one of those humans, which I know like people were like, oh, it's ridiculous. Like I'll forget to eat while as I'm going about my day and going about my business, because I'm like, I'm doing this. And all of a sudden it's been 12 hours and I haven't had any food or water. I'm like sick. So I would forget to eat. So the biggest thing for me, which was like, okay, what's your schedule? And they were like, tell me you need to eat here, 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 and here. And if it was like, you need this amount of protein, this amount of carbs, this amount of fat, I would it'll tell me how much of that food to eat. If I have chicken available, I'll be like, all right, I'm going to eat chicken. And it's like, all right, awesome. You need 4.6 ounces of chicken. I'm like, done, easy. Like it'll tell me how much of that to eat. So I don't have to like go into the app, be like, okay, I'd like to do chicken. And then you search it and you're like, okay, well, how much chicken? Well, I need this much of protein. So like, you're like adjusting a little like sliding scale type thing to try and figure out how much chicken you need. Or if you can have chicken, then you log it and it's like, oh, well, now the fat's over. Crap. Got to go back and retool the whole thing. So I liked that about the RP app, was it told me what to eat, when to eat it. But the same thing, I was consistent with it for like a few weeks. And I was like, well, I missed X amount of meals. The app keeps yelling at me, you haven't eaten in 15 minutes. You're a sack of shit. And I'm like, well, probably accurate. So that's kind of my thing with nutrition. I'm the worst person. I do fail at this section of the podcast because I don't track my food.
That's hilarious. Also, I've played with almost every app there is. So we've talked about Onyx before. I also got into the beta on Onyx. I like it. I think it's once I got a couple things figured out and they made a couple UI improvements, it was a little bit more straightforward in terms of like, I want it to do this, so have it go to that window, that kind of thing. I have played with MyFitnessPal and I don't care for it. It's too clunky. RP was great for the exact same reason that Kevin mentioned. You have your macros. I'm going to have 3 meals. Cool. What's in my fridge? Awesome. Ham. And it will tell me how much ham I need. And then based on other things, they're like, oh, well, if you have this much cheese, it'll fill in these things. And that part is really handy. And it's the only app I've ever seen that comes at it from that perspective, other than being like, you tell me how much chicken you ate, and then I'll tell you if it was right or wrong. Yeah. I had my wife and I did a 6-week challenge over the summer nutrition challenge. And I don't know about anybody else, but if you're in relationships and you are not the person who cooks, very, very hard to be like super strict with like dinner portions and stuff like that. And our saving grace was an app called Chronometer. So she and I both had Chronometer accounts, and Chronometer has an app on the phone, but it also has a website. And she could input all of the pieces that's in a recipe, like same thing you can do with MyFitnessPal. But then once we were friends with each other, she could give that recipe a name. So she puts it into her computer for whatever the recipe is. I can pick it on my phone and be like, all right, how much of this should I have? And I'm like, I need, 80 grams of protein, such and such a carb, such and such a fat. And I just dial the slider and it tells me how much of that meal with all of the shit that's in it do I need to have. And I've never been so consistent in my nutrition. First of all, because she and I were on the same page. We were doing the same things for the same reasons. But having like that feature in particular made it super easy to just get everything done. But at this point, I eat typically 2 times a day, and I'll have like a small snack in between. And I know without a doubt what my breakfast is going to be. And then there's something in the afternoon, and dinner is a total fucking dice roll. And since we're not putting stuff in Chronometer, I just don't track it, and I try to be smart about what I'm doing, which is maybe the best that I can hope for right now.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. So, final burning desires. We're coming close to 60 minutes here, which is about typically what we aim for. Katelynn, you've got a platform here of tens of people who are potentially going to listen to this, because you can never guess who's going to listen episode to episode. But across all platforms, we've got at least 60 subscribers here who are waiting with bated breath. If you were going to tell them something coming into January, what would you say?
Oh, I wish you would have asked me that question before the podcast, so I could have had a brilliant answer for you.
Brilliant answer.
Yeah, something really good. I would just say that being consistent is the best thing to be for 2023. You don't need to make any crazy changes. You don't need to, decide that you're going to be a famous CrossFitter, you're going to rock climb, or whatever it may be. You can have your passions and you can try something new, but just make small goals, small achievable goals, and be consistent with those little goals. And then once you start reaching them, then you can expand them.
Beautiful. Kevin, final thoughts?
I mean, pretty much same thing as Kate's saying with the small goals. I would just maybe, the way I had it worded in my head was have your goal, whatever that goal is, but then also have steps how to get there, like the incremental. All right, I'm going to go to the CrossFit Games. Okay, step 1, I should learn what a thruster is. Step 2,
do
so
a lot
it's
of thrusters.
Do a lot of thrusters. And so you have a process of how to get there, but have your goal. But just have your kind of step-by-step process of how to get there. And if you need help creating that step-by-step process, ask Sam, because he's smart.
Awesome.
If all else fails, call Sam.
If all else fails, at sam.crossfit on Instagram. His DMs are only full of me sending him stupid stuff. So ask him for help and his knowledge. And apparently it's worth more than $5, but you might have to haggle that a little bit.
Oh, a little bit. Katelynn, what were you saying there?
$650.
What were you saying before he cut you off, Katelynn?
Yeah, he does do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that your phone's always on Do Not Disturb, but you do eventually respond. So
that's true.
If you need to be in contact with him, just have a mental breakdown and he'll finally answer.
To be fair, you weathered that extremely well, so you didn't really need me for those things.
No, you.
Yeah. Well, I am really, really glad we had the chance to pull you in and steal an hour of your time. Thank you for doing that. I think this shit's hilarious, and we kind of knew what we were getting into when we asked you to do this, and so thanks for not disappointing.
You're welcome.
So we're gonna call it right now. So we're gonna end the recording. Katelynn, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Anyone who's listening, watching, we'll see you next week.